The following video is a collection of 3 short tutorials taken from my latest course, The Essential Material Guide. The full course is 3.5 hours long, with additional updates coming in the future. If you have a beginner to intermediate knowledge of Blender's shader editor, and you want to learn how to make materials like a pro, then I highly recommend you check it out. You can get a 35% discount on the course right now with the promo code SAVE35, but for an even better deal, you can get 2 courses for less than the price of one if you buy the Essential Blender Bundle and use the code BUNDLE40. You'll find the links in the description. I have a texture here which is like a corkboard type material. Now this texture, I've just used the texture itself as the bump, as I didn't have one, but it was actually made specifically to be a 3D texture. And the way that I know that is because it's seamless, which means if I duplicate this and line it up next to this, you can't actually see where the one plane ends and the other one begins. It's someone's went in and photoshopped the edges are all the way around this to make sure that it's just a seamless surface. And if I grab another one of these and I move this down, this should line up to there too. And in theory, you can just tile these textures as much as you want, and that will be fine. However, in reality, when you're using tiling textures, seamless textures, what you'll notice is if you tile them enough, let's say we scale this down 10 times, you will start to see repetition in the patterns. Hopefully you can see that there. You'll probably see it easier on the plane. You can actually see where each individual tile is, right? This is now the same image displayed 10 times this way and 10 times this way. And you can see that one side is clearly lighter than the other, and it messes everything up. Now, there are some quite complex solutions to fix this sort of tiling problem. But there's a solution that I found a few years ago by accident. I'm not sure if anybody else does it like this, but it's a one node solution and I use it all the time. If you add this texture, the Voronoi texture, this is a really useful texture in general. It's quite similar to noise in a lot of ways. What it does is it creates these sorts of cell shapes. It makes a dot and then it draws a line in between the nearest point between each one of the dots. Right, so that's all this does. It just puts random dots down and then it draws a line, the boundary between each one of the dots to create this shape. But if we look at this output here, color, it gives you something like this. And all we have to do is take this color and plug it into the rotation of a mapping node. And that will rotate this in completely random directions. And if we mute this, you can see the difference this makes. So we have very obvious tiling here. And once we add the Voronoi texture, there's no obvious tiling at all. Now, if we zoom in close enough on this and we play with the scale, you can actually see that there is a hard line. You can see it there, hopefully. There is a hard line between the two now. It isn't seamless anymore. But because it's quite a noisy texture and because these lines are going all over the place, you can't actually see, once you zoom out just a little bit, you can't see where those lines are. And a better way of covering it, if you change the type, this is Euclidean. If you change it to Minkowski, which looks like this, instead of having this sort of four-sided shape, you get these kind of irregular shapes, and that helps to hide the difference as well. And you can play with the exponent, which is going to just change the shape, and you can change the the randomness, which will go from being a perfect grid over to a very randomized shape. And like I said, unless you get incredibly close to it, you just can't really see where the seams are at all. In fact, I'm very close here and I still can't really see where they are. This is one of my favorite little techniques in 3D. It's something that I use all of the time to hide those horrible tiling texture marks. One of the most overlooked parts of the shader editor is the object output of the texture coordinate node. This allows you to use any object in the scene to influence the texture coordinates that are inside a material. Let's say that we have this surface here, and part of it is going to be covered by some sort of roof, which means that obviously we want to have an area which will be underneath the roof, which will be dry, and then the rest of it would be wet because it's been rained on or whatever. So I'm going to add an empty object into the scene. Just add a new object, empty, plane axis. An empty object, if you're fairly new to Blender, is basically just an object that doesn't have any mesh data. It's basically just a set of coordinates floating around in 3D space. So it doesn't show up in the render. It's just used for things like this. So I'm going to add the plane axis, and you can see over here we get what is basically just some crosshairs, right? And we're going to place this above our material, something like this. With the material selected, in the texture coordinate node, we have this eyedropper. I'm going to select this empty object, and then I'm going to grab the object output, and I'm going to put it into a gradient texture, and that'll give us something like this, right? It just gives us exactly what it sounds like, a gradient from one to the other. We could change the mode on this to something like easing. Right, so now if we grab this empty object and we move it around, it will actually affect anything with that material in the scene. We can scale it, which will make the fade out distance larger, and we can rotate it and we can move it around. I'm just going to rotate this 90 degrees, something like this. Back, let's go 180. And we can just plug this straight into our mix shader node. And you can see there we have a very definitive difference. If we scale this in, we can scale it out and we get a smoother transition. And move this around. What we can also do, instead of just having a straight line over here, is we can actually add some noise to this as well. So if we take a look at this, we just got this black and white texture. So what we need to do is add a mix color node and a noise texture. Let's plug this into the factor, and let's set this to maybe subtract. And you can see that it's subtracting away from this. It's going to give us this kind of like feathered edge. And then if we look at this, instead of having that nice artificial looking clean edge, we have this really kind of roughed up, more random one. So something like this could be really great. Let's say you had a scene on a beach, obviously right next to the water, the sand looks darker. And you could even animate this and have it kind of coming in and out and like slowly fading out as the sand dries and the water recedes and then coming back in. You can do all sorts of things with this technique using empty objects, and the texture coordinate node will give you a lot of really handy information. It can also be very useful just when you're trying to use gradients in general. It can be pretty tricky if you have a gradient plugged into here. It can be a bit painful sometimes trying to rotate the gradient and things to get it to work properly. So being able to just kind of grab the gradient and move it around wherever you want is a really useful thing to be able to do. One thing that's always very jarring for viewers when they're looking at CGI is perfectly flat, straight, artificial looking edges. In real life, you almost never see edges that are this perfect. A, because humans just don't really want to interact with things that are this sharp. You wouldn't want a table or something that had an edge on it this sharp, because it would probably be painful, and there's a chance that you could hurt yourself if you accidentally fell on this. It would actually be really sharp. Secondly, because real life objects just naturally become dull. Even if you manufacture something out of wood or metal or whatever that has corners and edges like this, over time they are going to become rounded. Now we can deal with that on a modeling level, either by adding a bevel, right, like this, which obviously means that you have to physically go around and bevel all of the edges, and that can make working on the mesh awkward because now we have all this extra geometry. We can do it on a modifier level. We have a bevel modifier, but that can also create problems as well when you're modeling. And we're adding a lot of extra geometry into the scene. But there is actually a way that we can do this on a shader level with a node that's made to do this called the bevel node. It has a few other handy applications, but this is what it's actually designed to do. If we take a look at this bevel node, you can see that if we look over here, this is the normal direction of these faces, right? So Blender knows that blue is the top of this face and red is the side. But if we look through the bevel, it's sort of blurring the edges. Some of the red is now ending up on top as like a gradient, and some of the blue is ending up on the side. So when light hits this corner, instead of seeing it as a 90-degree angle, Blender will read this like it's a gradient that goes from one side to the other, and it will render it out like that, so you won't see these very sharp edges. So all you have to do to use this is just put it through a bump node. So we're using the proper normal information. We just plug this into here and then plug this into the normal input. And the good thing about this is the height input is still free, which means that if you wanted to plug, say, a noise texture in, you could. I'll show that in a second, but for now, we have this radius control, which controls the amount, and the samples just basically control the quality. If you take a look at this again, let's put down a 1 sample. You can see we have just this very sort of distinct line. You don't have a nice smooth gradient here, whereas if we put this up to like 10 or something, you get a much smoother edge. So you can plug other normal information into this as well. If you had a normal map, you would plug it into here. If the texture had a normal map, so you can use this in conjunction, and if you have a bump map, you just plug it into the height over there. And if we zoom in really, really close, you can see where the original edge was, especially on an object like this. Right, but once you add any sort of distance, it just gives you this effect of like a nice smoothed off edge. And once again, if we just hide this for a second, you can see the difference that this makes is actually, it's subtle, but it's also makes a big difference to the overall appearance of the object. It looks a lot less artificial when it has these nice rounded edges on them. So this is definitely something that I suggest that you start adding to your materials.